you were right, and you predicted Carlos and Sabalenka were winning it, and I predicted Sinner and Iga.
Yeah, and you still haven't paid up, so. Special guest, Lizzie Allan. Welcome to the show, Lizzie. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing super good. Most recently, you were out at the U.S. Open working out there. How's your experience as a locker room attendant?
It was probably one of the best working experiences of my life.
Why was that?
Um, well, it's first off, to be at the US Open in Flushing throughout the whole entire tournament was just incredible. The atmosphere was electric. And then the group of girls I worked with were super nice and super friendly. Um, so that was lovely. And then just interacting with the players on a day-to-day basis and just ensuring that their needs are met. And then I mainly worked in the women's locker room, but if I'd go into the hallway, I would see like Demon Hour, Ben Shelton, like all the top ATP guys. So like that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Did you have any crazy asks? Did any players ask for some like just wild stuff?
Not from me personally. I don't think we got really weird asks at all. Um, I mean, there are people who wanted their laundry done in house, and so we did that. But that was about the weirdest ask we got because usually we send the laundry like outside. We go through a company and they do it.
Sure. So what exact tasks were you doing then? Like just holding open the door and stuff for them, or what?
No, we would. Well, okay. We would open and close their lockers, and then just make sure like at the beginning of the tournament, all their like gifts were set up properly, and ensuring that the brands were like placed like
Gifts. What kind of gifts?
it varied if you were qualifier versus main draw. Qualifiers got substantially way less than the main draw players. Um,
I mean,
yeah,
essentially minor leagues. Would make sense, right?
JVS. I see.
There were. I mean, you could get into the main draw. I mean, it's
Yeah, true.
equal chance.
Uh-huh.
But so did you have what was your like coolest experience with one of the players? Did you like were you able to talk to him or did they tell you can't really talk to him?
I mean, we could talk to them very briefly. Taylor Townsend, I love her dearly. I haven't really watched doubles until this point at the Open when I got to interact with all the doubles players. But specifically, Taylor Townsend was like the nicest person ever. Like, I can't hype up Taylor enough. And especially after the Ostapenko drama, like, she was just so sweet about it, very understanding with it. So I think interacting with Taylor Townsend all throughout the tournament was super, or probably one of the best experiences.
I believe Taylor Townsend won the women's draw final, right? Or was in
No,
the
she made
final.
it to she got second
Okay.
at the US Open in doubles, but she did give us a shout out, the locker room attendants, a shout out in her like Grand Slam acceptance speech. So that was super cool and probably one of the highlights on my resume now for sure.
Yeah. I feel like that's like one of I don't think I've ever heard anyone ever shout out there. It's always like the ball kids, their
Mhm.
coaches. Never heard any locker room attendants. You must have been pretty good.
Yeah, I like to think we gave pretty good service to Miss Townsend.
Yeah. So like were you just like running around like when people asked you to do stuff or
Yeah,
what?
if like we needed to go take their laundry to drop it off for them. Stocking Evian water. That's our main sponsor, one of our main sponsors of the U.S. Open. So we had entire two massive fridges that were just filled to the brim with Evians and Powerade. But like Evian was our like big deal in the locker room. We had to make sure that was stocked up.
What kind of training goes into being a locker room attendant?
There's not much training other than to know that players are stressed because it's the last Grand Slam of the season and their ranking for the end of the year kind of depends on how well they do at this Grand Slam. And then they're traveling a bunch, super jet lag. So like if they're mean to you or like accidentally snap at you, it's very unintentional. And that they're just super stressed and not to take it like super personally. Chris
Hmm.
Eubanks actually said that to us during one of our training days, so that was pretty cool because we had heard that through like different people before, but actually hearing that from Chris Eubanks on the last day of training like really like solidified it.
Yeah. hey, they're gonna be assholes to you. Just like don't take it personally. Like
Mhm.
they're
Yeah.
they can't
But
treat you
I never
great.
had a bad experience with anybody being rude or anything, so I can't speak for people at the practice desk because that is where people are the most rude. But in the locker room, nobody was ever like super, super cutthroat.
Yeah, and you're a big Yannick Sinner fan,
I
Taylor
am.
Fritz fan. I believe
And
those are what.
and then Alex Demonauer. I'd probably go Fritz, Demonauer, Sinner for my men's top favorites.
Okay, did you get to see them at the tournament?
Yeah, I got to see I was almost at every single one of their matches watching, even if it was just for like 20 minutes. I was at almost all of their matches, and so that was super, super exciting to be a part of.
Are you working 8 hours, 10-hour days? Like, what's your
Um,
shift, and then what are you doing? So you're just going to matches, you just get free access?
Kind of free access, like, so I my shifts didn't start until 3 p.m. So like essentially any earlier matches in the day, I could go to whatever I wanted to. Um, I mean, if it was in Arthur Ashe and I was in somebody's seat, I would have to like give it up because they paid for it. But like essentially everything else is general admission, so I like really didn't have a problem with that too much. And then on my breaks, since I like worked the night shift, I got to be go to Arthur Ashe on my breaks, so it was just cool seeing like how electric the Arthur Ashe atmosphere is, especially when an American was playing.
Yeah. Is it packed every single match when it's like the quarters round of
I,
32,
I
16?
think it really depends on the matchup. Because I watched Sinner during the day one time. I don't remember who he was playing, but that one was just like, I mean, it was decently full, but like you could still see it was pretty empty. For the mixed tournament, actually, I was surprised to see how full it was. Just because with the whole new concept of the mixed tournament this year and how it's really only tailored for singles players, it was surprisingly really packed for
Yeah,
that.
they paid out so much.
Hmm.
I think they paid out the winners $1 million, which is
Yeah, yeah,
crazy
yeah.
almost.
So yeah, so that was pretty cool to be in the locker room after Sarah Arani won and just her like whole, well, not her whole team, but just like to see how happy she was. Cause I mean, she had obviously something to prove at this tournament. So just seeing Sarah Arani in the locker room after that was just incredible.
Yeah. And so like what were your days? Were they 8 hours? So you started at
Oh,
3 p.m.
and
What
then it would go until the last woman left the locker room. So some nights it was like 1:30 a.m. Some
dang.
nights it was maybe 12. One night it was 2:15 the day Anismova and Osaka played, and that one three setter. But for the most part, it was between like it was probably about from 3 till 12 a.m., 3 p.m. to 12 a.m. So a little bit past 9 hours, I would say.
Are you punching a clock then? Do they keep track of your hours? Do you have like do you
Yeah, we
okay.
clock in and out. We scan our credential in and out
Okay.
at our
Nice.
HR area.
And you mentioned that you were working with some cool people. Where
Mhm.
were they from?
Seemed like everybody was from the New York area. The other closer was actually from North Carolina, and we were like the only two who weren't from like New York or Jersey.
Okay.
And I got made fun of a lot for the way I say bag and bagel, which I don't think it's weird, but
Yeah,
I
I
get
guess
flamed.
yeah, you probably use those words quite a bit. New York, a
Mhm.
lot of bagels plus tennis
Bags.
bagels.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so how many matches were you able to watch? And when you're working, like are the matches on? I just imagine TVs every single place. So
Yeah,
you can
we
just kind of tune in.
Yeah, so like right above our like desk that we had in the locker room, there was like three or four different TVs. Two of them would have like the practice and match schedule on them, and then the other two had like matches that were on. Typically, those TVs had the Ash and Armstrong matches, and then we had a room that was like kind of dedicated to TVs, and there's like six TVs in there, and then like the players sometimes would request like to watch their friends or like watch their potential opponent.
Right.
And so, yeah, which was actually super interesting was that our stream of Ash and Armstrong was not what like the general public was shown. So like there was no ads. It didn't really show the score other than the game score. So like we weren't really sure sometimes what the set score was and the overall match score.
Hmm.
And then like just the camera angles were different. So I thought that was super interesting.
And how did you get this job? Like, where'd you find it? Did you apply for a general job, or did you apply for specifically locker room attendant?
So the Gustavus men's tennis coach, Kins, actually works out at the US Open, and I've been connected with her throughout my time at tennis and life camps. So just connecting with her, and somebody 2 years ago from tennis and life camp worked it, and he was a locker room attendant and he loved it. So then I connected with her and saying, "What's the process like?" And she explained to me very detailed what the process was like. So I knew kind of what was going on through each step, and then interviewed, and then got the job. But I had to fill out like an application, send in my resume, like the whole typical job application
Yeah,
process.
that makes sense. And then did you like was the interview process pretty extensive? Did you have to go through a bunch of hoops, or
I
because
only
you had
had
the
one
connection?
interview, but I think that maybe helped with my connection with Kins and just being connected with her. I guess I didn't really ask anybody else what their interview process was like, just because I knew Kins ahead of time and
Mm.
like kind of knew each step and what that would entail. So I think everybody had the same. I don't think mine was special because I knew Kins. I think everybody had the same, and the steps were the same.
Are they gonna renew your contract next year? Are you gonna be back for 2026?
Oh, I'm planning on being back for sure. I mean, hopefully I can work at other tournaments, whether it's Indian Wells, Miami, any of the hard courts tournaments, in the summer, like DC, Cincy. I'm trying to think. There's definitely other hardcore tournaments, but I'm drawing a blank right now. But like those main ones, ideally, are what I would like to work.
Yeah, that'd be
Sure.
pretty sweet to work them. And you just graduated from Concordia,
Hmm.
I guess last spring or
May.
whatever. Um, and yeah, you worked at Sherwin for 4 years,
Hmm.
and we were able to talk tennis because I worked at Sherwin as well. Almost, I mean, anytime we work together, and it's way better being able to work with someone who is able to talk some tennis
Hmm.
because I don't know, not many people talk tennis.
Yeah,
So
so surprisingly, to go kind of off of that, how you and I had that tennis connection and we were talking about it every single day, I was the only one in the women's locker room who had played collegiate tennis. Really nobody else knew that much about tennis. I mean, like the big people like Sabalenka, Sinner, Alcaraz, Iga, but like besides that, nobody really knew who kind of like, well, the rules were. So like they kept calling the matches games and stuff like that. Which I mean, it's probably what the U.S. Open wanted, was like people who aren't going to fangirl in these
right,
close encounters with the players. So I think it was kind of interesting because I thought there'd be more tennis fans working there,
yeah.
but I mean, there were a couple, but like for the most part, nobody really followed the tour as much as I did. And then one of my roommates from Gustavus, who we roomed together in New York.
Yeah, there's and this kind of is a full circle moment for me, because there's a clip where Fed gets stopped, Roger Federer gets stopped, and he's like walking through the locker room, and he doesn't have his
Hmm.
badge on that says his name. So the security guard, stops him because he doesn't,
Hmm.
like, where's your badge? He's like, dude, it's Roger Federer. But that probably makes sense. That guy has probably no idea. He's just a contracted dude.
Hmm.
Um, and but I do think if you're working a tennis tournament, you should have an idea. I feel like there's just, I don't know, there's kind of that service that maybe you're able to provide if you just know people, and like, okay, it's Alcaraz, like, dude, you got to open up the door, rather than you
Uh-huh.
know Yuri Lehechka, where it's like, dude, this guy's like 30 in the world, probably will never do anything, or Lerner Tien, is
Mhm.
never going to do anything, will never get
Although he
past
had
the
the
fourth
most
round.
top 10 wins this year, actually.
Yeah, but he never got past a fourth round for a Grand Slam, and
That
had
is
pretty
true.
mediocre results, I would say. Wait, you're a fan of Lerner Tien?
Well, not, I mean, I wouldn't say a fan. I didn't really watch him play, but I mean, I do have to give him respect where respect's due. Him having more top 10 wins than Taylor Fritz. There's a stat. He had more top 10 wins, Lerner Tien, than like Medvedev, which he sucked this year. I was actually at that match where he lost. I guess it was the only match he played at the US Open besides doubles. But I mean, he had the most top 10 wins besides like Sinner, Alcaraz, and Novak. So you got to give some respect to Lerner Tien.
All right, I mean that's fair, but I listened to a podcast called Cherry Tennis. They do the Cherry
Uh-huh.
Tennis podcast, and they love Lerner Tien. They started the podcast right when Lerner Tien like started popping off, right after the Next Gen finals
Uh-huh.
last year, and they talk about him every single episode. It's super annoying, because he will never win a major, guaranteed. You heard it here first. He will never get to a finals of a major. He will never get to the semifinals of a major. He will never get to a quarterfinals of a major. He will
I
get to the
I
fourth.
think maybe quarters he has potential for, but I think you're right with the semi and final because I mean Demon Hour almost made it. I love Demon Hour, don't get me wrong, but like Demon Hour almost made it to the semis. Felix made it to the semis. So like if Lerner goes off on like I think probably a hard court just because that's what Americans typically play on, I think there's potential for quarters.
Uh, no, I just don't see it. He does not have the game. He doesn't have a shot or part of his game that is better than other people's. Like besides he's lefty, that's it. Like he doesn't have anything that is distinguishable. Maybe that he's young.
Uh-huh.
He's doesn't know any better. Once he's going to lose for a couple more years, he'll learn his place. 40, 50, 60 in the rankings. And
Okay, well, when he gets top 20 within the next couple years, I'm gonna revisit this podcast and be like, he'll and say I told you so.
I mean, top 20, like, I mean, that's kind of my point is like, yeah, he's going to be known as a,
Top
what,
20 player.
what a top 20, like no, like if you're an American tennis player, no one cares about you unless you win a Grand Slam. You will
So
never be remembered. Like think about all the people in the 80s, 90s that won 0 majors. Do you know any of them? No, you don't. You only remember the good ones: Agassi, Sampras,
yeah, that is true.
Roddick.
I walked past Andy Roddick. Just he was just casually on the grounds and like you can't take pictures with anybody or anything, but in my head I'm like, holy shit, that's Andy Roddick. Because he was just like had a hat and sunglasses on, but like you can I mean if you're a tennis fan, you can tell who people are with hat and sunglasses on. I was like, but I like had to just keep pushing my laundry cart forward. But I'm
Yeah.
like, damn, that's Andy Roddick. So it's super cool. I guess we saw a lot of former Grand Slam champions. We saw Clijsters, we saw Flavia, Panetta, um, who else? Like the older ones. Clijsters was in the locker room quite a bit and she was super nice.
What were they doing? Like, why were they there?
I think they were commentating, maybe not on like the main channels like ESPN and like Tennis Channel, but or maybe they were on Tennis. I don't know. Like I said, I didn't really watch anything besides like the feed we were given. But I think they were doing a lot of commentating. I know Clijsters and Maddox Sands played exhibition before the men's final. So
Yeah.
that's super cool to see.
In uh, pre-tournament, who did you think was going to win the title for the U.S. Open? Were you surprised that Alcaraz won the final and Sabalenka on the female side?
I think going into it off Iga's win in Cincy and her win at Wimbledon, I thought, and the way she was playing at the mixed tournament, I thought she was for sure gonna win the tournament. But then she played Anisimova, which is my favorite women's player, and I was like rooting for both of them. But like it was super cool to see Anisimova beat Iga after that 06-06 loss. But then for the men's side, Sinner's the favorite on hard court, obviously. But the way Alcaraz was playing, not dropping a set until the final, you got to give him credit where credit is due. But you were right, and you predicted Carlos and Sabalenka were winning it, and I predicted Sinner and Iga.
Yeah, and you still haven't paid up, so
Yeah, I'm
I
getting that too
see.
tomorrow.
All right, I mean that's fair. I'm just saying, like, if you're making bets, it better not be on credit. That's all I'm saying.
Wait. If I remember correctly, you were in Chipotle debt to me for like 3 weeks.
Lizzie and I would have tennis bets. We would find a match and match up like we did for the U.S. Open. We're referencing where I think it was the semifinals and
I think it was a little bit before the semis because
quarters.
Iga lost in the quarters.
Okay,
I think it
so
was maybe the round of 16 or the round before that is when we kind of were seeing where things were going and then made our Chipotle bet. But before that, I texted you. I said, "Hey, I have a really good feeling that Bublik is going to win this match tonight. What are
mhm,
your thoughts?" No, Tommy Paul has it. And I was like, I am feeling so confident in Bublik right now.
yep,
I think he'll win. And I
yep.
think that's where the first Chipotle bet of the Open started.
Yeah, and I'm curious what the fans think, or the fans, the people listening to this think for how much, like, what's the value of Chipotle, right? Like, what does Chipotle mean if you owe someone Chipotle? Do you set up an online order for them, or is there an actual numerical value? And the value that we came up with was $15.
Mhm.
But in New York, I don't know, that might be three-quarters of a burrito out there.
I think I paid $19 when I went to Chipotle. Like, I only went to Chipotle one time, but it was like $19 for a burrito with queso, and then I got a Mexican Coke, like the glass Cokes, to go with it,
Okay.
and that was about $19 with tax and everything.
Okay, so
So it was a bit
not oh
pricier than in Fargo, I would say, but
yeah.
still
You
pretty comparable.
yeah, the Mexican Coke is probably like
Yeah,
$4. So
but I felt like treating myself that day.
yeah, that's fair. Um yeah, did you have any honey deuces out at the US Open?
I did. I think one night I had 3, and they're expensive. They
Yeah,
actually ran
they're up like $23.
yeah, they were, they're really strong, I would say. Grey Goose does not fail those honeydews. Um, but once they ran out of cups kinda towards, like, the quarters and the semis, so, the cups that they're known for, then they were giving away, like, plastic cups, or not giving away, but, like, giving it in plastics cups, so it was $2 cheaper,
Mm,
21. So I guess that cup is worth $2, but I think a lot of people were annoyed that they couldn't get the traditional honeydew cup, but I had one during fan week after my shift one day, and then sporadically, if we got done way before the men's side, we would go have one, or if I switch shifts with somebody, I'd have a honeydews.
yeah. How many weeks were you out there?
I was out there for 3 weeks from August 12th until September 7th,
Okay.
working every single day. No
Dang.
rest. Well, I mean, there is rest obviously because I don't work until 3, but no
And
days off.
did they put you up in a specific place, or did you have to
No,
find a friend?
I had to find some friends, um, and then we all roomed together, and that was super nice,
Yeah.
but they don't pay for housing and player operations for just locker room attendance and practice court desk people.
Was that in the city or near the
Yeah, we
tournament
were
grounds?
actually 2 subway stops away from the courts, so that was super nice. So just could just take this I guess the subway stop when we were going to the courts was blocked off because 'cause they're doing construction, so we had to walk down to the next one, but, like, it wasn't that bad, I would say.
In a previous discussion, I believe you said that you made a ton of connections at the tournament that you're
Mhm,
like, wow, like it was really good for networking. What
mhm.
what were, where do you think some of those conversations can potentially lead where you want to go?
Um, I, like, don't exactly know where in, like, a tournament I would wanna work, but I just know, like, I wanna help out with tennis as much as possible. So I, like, connected with some of the WTA supervisors who work a lot of the tournaments, and, like, they can't directly hire, but they, like, know the people who are hiring, so I think just, like, connecting with them and, like, just chatting with them, like, saying hi anytime you saw them, and just kinda being a friendly face, I think will help hopefully further my career in either working at the USTA, WTA, or ATP side of things.
Mhm. And um, do you have any specific highlight of the tournament that you kind of think of when you think back on your experience out in New York?
Yeah, I would say, um when Taylor Townsend played Mira Andreeva, I was fortunate enough to switch my shift with somebody else that day, and so I got done at 8 o'clock, kinda right when they were starting, and, we got to sit pretty close watching that match. Had a couple of honeydeuces, but then just seeing Taylor, and just how she like commanded the American crowd playing against Mira was probably so cool. And then I like took a video of like the match point, and then it was just electric. We were all electric in the crowd. And then I actually got to show that video to Taylor. I was like, "Hey Taylor, can I show you something?" And she's like, "Yeah, what is it?" And then so then I showed her this like point, and then like how like me and my roommates who I was with that night were just so happy that she won, and she was just so thankful of the support we gave to her. So
Oh,
that was probably one of the highlights of working at the Open for
that's
sure.
pretty cool. Yeah,
Mhm.
Taylor Townsend is electric. I was first introduced to Taylor Townsend back in 2022
Mhm.
when she was playing at Cincinnati Western and Southern Open. I think you actually went to that tournament.
I did. I don't. Yeah, I actually went to that specific one in that year.
And she was playing, maybe you were at this match even, but she was playing Ayla Tomjanovic during a night match.
Uh huh.
And there was, I don't know if it like had rained earlier in that session, but there was no one there. And maybe it was because no one really knew who Taylor Townsend was, and this was right before the Netflix series dropped. So I like Tomjanovic was featured in that, but not
Mhm.
quite big yet. So it's kind of just like a bunch of who's, and we were 3 rows up. It was good tennis.
Mhm.
Tomjanovic ended up winning it, but one super cool because she's featured in the Netflix series. So you're
Mhm.
like, yo, I watched her before she got big, and then
Mhm.
Townsend has just went off in doubles.
Yeah,
Um,
she's currently number one in doubles. Well, at least she was before the Open started. I don't know how. I assume she's won now, but yeah, and
and
just
and respectable in singles too.
beating players like Andreeva, almost beating. Oh, who did she play the next round and then had like 8 match points against? I don't know. Like her singles run was so incredible at the Open.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was Barbara Krejcikova, right?
Yeah, who I didn't realize until I was working at the Open that she actually won Wimbledon one year.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah, yeah. For the female side, it's a lot. It just like since Serena, no one's really dominated. It's been
Hmm.
just a lot of different people who have won like one major or a couple majors.
Yeah.
But for the guys, it's just like, dude, it's just like 10 guys total have won majors in the last 20
Mhm.
years, which is ridiculous.
Which kind of makes, in my opinion, and I might be slightly biased, but I think it makes the women's tour way more interesting than the men's tour. Just because it's so unpredictable, you never know what you're going to get when you watch a match. And just, I think the playing styles of the women are just so vastly different than the men's playing styles. So I think, preferably now, I am going to try and watch more WTA, and I think the WTA is more interesting.
Yeah. One thing that they need to do is they need to get on a streaming service, specifically one of the big ones, Hulu,
Mm-hmm.
Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
HBO. Pick one. Like one of
Yeah.
them needs to pick it up because I will buy that for 10.99
Mm-hmm.
a month for
Mm-hmm.
sure, or
Yeah.
20.99.
Because I was chatting with some like an employee from the men's locker room, and he was just kind of asking like, "Oh, like what do you usually watch more of?" And I was just like, "Well, because tennis TV is only men's tennis, I really didn't have access to the WTA unless it's like a Grand Slam." So I think they really need to up it, and like you said, I would definitely pay.
Yeah, I
Which
had
tennis TV should, I think, have ATP and WTA, not just ATP.
yeah.
How are you going to
It
call yourself tennis TV and not have women's tennis?
I agree. I agree. It it doesn't have the majors either for tennis TV. You
Mhm.
have to get ESPN and then I believe Fox for Roland Garros, if I'm not mistaken. So that one might be on a streaming service, might be on Paramount or something like that. But one of the reasons why I like UFC is it's on ESPN every single time, and now they're moving to Paramount Plus, so it's super consistent, and their
Mhm.
growth has blown up. I think tennis
Mhm.
needs to, and other sports need to take note. If you're not like the NFL or the NBA, where you're already this big, I think
Mhm.
it's to your benefit to grow the sport. Like,
Mhm.
don't you want to have more people watching? Like, don't you want to leverage your sport to be bigger in the future? Maybe lose out on, a couple $1 million here, but I don't know.
Mhm.
What's your thought on that?
No, definitely. I agree because I mean, you can ask any basketball player, like high school level, who their favorite player is, and they will give you a player like that. However, you ask most of tennis players, specifically in the Midwest, I've noticed this, and more so in North Dakota. But like, you ask somebody who their favorite tennis player is, just casually, they'll be like, who? Like, I don't watch professional tennis. And so I do understand like that it's super hard just because of all the different time zones and how they're traveling to different tournaments. But like there has to be a more accessible way to watch it because no way should my number one player on my high school team not have a favorite tennis player. You know? Like that's just ridiculous. And I've like said this to you, I've said this to my dad multiple times. There has to be more access to tennis. And even going it's so easy to go to NBA game, it's so easy to go to an NHL, MLB game, but you have to actively seek out going to these tournaments. And I think that's specifically what I've noticed from my time in the East Coast at the Open versus in the Midwest is that like you have to actively seek it out. It's not just there for you. Like our closest tourney is Cincinnati. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's a challenger in Sioux Falls or something for 75 ATP points, but like you have to actively seek it out, and it's not going to be top players like Sinner and Alcaraz, which I
Yeah.
think is what's hurting American tennis fans and potentially great tennis players is because they don't have access to it.
Mm-hmm. I honestly think like a pretty cool like guys trip or trip in general, I guess you could say, would be going to like the qualifying rounds of Cincy, like
Mhm,
where it's an ATP 1,000, both men and women are there, so
mhm,
it's you get to see a little bit of both, and you get the grounds pass, and you go and just bet. You set like a $300 limit or like $200 limit per day, and just hammer different matches, and then you're able to go to those matches. That would be,
mhm,
I think that's the the best possible situation for a tournament. But I also think one way that tennis could get bigger is some of these sports, betting companies promote it a little bit better. When have you ever heard someone promoting something and they're like, "Oh, do an Alcaraz over 2.5," or something where there's like some sort of tennis, quota rather than it's always the people promoting the NFL or the NBA.
I mean, besides maybe on my time at Sherwin, hearing you talk about tennis betting and maybe a little bit from my dad, I haven't heard nothing.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing
I feel
is
like
like
personally it's super maybe it's because I played tennis, but I feel like it's super easy to bet on tennis, or could be super easy. Guessing over under how many games won, like that's just so easy.
yeah, I agree. And it makes you want to watch the sport. Like I would, if I were the sport, I would want to lean into whatever can help you grow. And
Mhm,
tennis betting exists. So lean
mhm,
into it. Like bring it up. And people want that serotonin and dopamine. They want, $50 on a match and they're gonna tune in to watching it. I just think there's no like marketing with
mhm.
maybe famous people or promoters on YouTube or something like that with like tennis betting, where it's like, hey, take Alcaraz over, you know, copy my bet type of thing.
The only downside to tennis betting being more prominent is that already the tennis players get a lot of death threats, a lot of hate messages when they lose a match. So
Mm-hmm.
I think if there was a way maybe to like I don't know, you can never prevent that as much as you try because people will still be rude and DM players.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I think you also have to take into consideration once it gets super big, these players are going to get like a bunch more DMs saying, you fucking suck, like stuff like that. You just lost my whole apartment money. So I think I do agree it would grow the sport more, but like from the player's perspective, I could see maybe why some of them would be against that.
Yeah. And I get that. Like you don't want
Mhm,
to get like death threats or anything like
mhm,
that. But on the other hand, I think like what like are they really gonna come and kill you? Like they bet on your match. You know what I mean? They're just mad that they lost their bet. Like
uh-huh,
I,
true.
I like if you were receiving a DM like fuck you, you lost. Like it's probably because one, you're down in the dumps just after a loss. You just took a massive L. And
Mhm.
then two, you got someone giving you a death threat, but like they just lost their money, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you lost potential money, so it's a double whammy. I think, I mean, it's for tennis, it's tougher because it's an individual sport and it's all on
mhm,
you. It's not like the team where it's
mhm.
like the Vikings, like you don't have that personal blame. But I guarantee if someone has a bad play, they're getting death threats for
Yeah,
sure in the NFL or something like that.
mhm.
I think it's just part of the territory, part of sports.
Yeah,
I think there needs to be more of like a filter for their Instagram and stuff like that. Like why are you able to see this stuff? Like there should be ways to
yeah,
filter that sort of thing, I
yeah,
think.
I agree.
Um but yeah, so what's next with you in your job search and your tennis search?
Um, well, before we dive into that, there's something I wanna bring up on the podcast that I feel like unless you're actually at the US Open, it's like or maybe from a fan's perspective, you can see it, but, I feel like out of all the tennis tournaments I've been to, I feel like the US Open is, like, the least focused on tennis out of all the tennis tournaments I've been to. It seems like it's more at least in the past couple years, it's been more influencer based and that they just wanna generate um, like, more influencers coming there and, like, promoting it that way.
Mhm.
Because then you see a bunch of people, like, trying to get up mid-game
Mhm.
in between, like, if you're up 2-0, like, they'll leave, like, right after, like, during that 3rd game. Versus, like, Indian Wells, I feel like, and Cincy and all the other tournaments I've been to, which I'm fortunate enough to have gone to, those are, like, actually tennis fans who are in the stands watching. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah,
I
no,
feel like maybe it's not talked about enough. I've seen a couple clips about that on my TikTok, and I'm like, "Huh, I, like, really agree with that." But also, you really only see that on stadiums like Ash and Louis Armstrong at the Open, but I feel like that's what gets the most attention, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I went to court 17 or grandstand or court 12, like, it's not the influencers there, and
yeah.
that's when you get super close with them, but, like, I feel like all the focus, is on Ash and Armstrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. I think that's super smart of the US Open. They
Mhm,
probably do it the best out of anyone. The experience, I think, is
mhm.
what you're describing. And you
But I
want to go
think
to
that
the
experience is good only if you're there for, like, the vibes and not actually for the tennis, versus I'm going seeking out Indian Wells and Cincy for the tennis, not really the experience, you know?
I think so, yes, but I also think the tournaments are trying to do more of what the US Open is doing. I think the US Open does it so well and they have the
Mhm,
natural draw to the tournament that they just have to keep on doing more. And they're at the point now where it's so big that they need to get the people on the cusp to go there. That's why
mhm,
they're highlighting so many famous people, at the matches. They're like, wow, so many famous people. They want to make it more of a like a cool thing, like reality TV. Like, oh, you just saw Leonardo DiCaprio,
uh-huh.
or some random person. I think Donald Trump was at the tournament and he like caused a major delay. Did you
Oh,
hear anything about that on the locker room side?
not really from the players, just because the women's side of things were done the day he came to the tournament.
Yeah.
But, we had to still clean out the lockers and stuff, so that day it just happened to be downpouring, and we had to go through extra security, 30 minutes of it just in the downpouring rain, and my wallet is no joke, probably about a little less the size of my hand. They had to go through that wallet. And my friend who, like, came in with me that day, who was also working, her wallet was, like, paper thin, like, no joke, that big, and they still searched it.
Dang.
And so I can't imagine, like, the security efforts that the fans had to go to. I know a lot of people were late in
Right.
not getting there until the set halfway through the 2nd set, and that's just so unacceptable,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel. And they
That
even
yeah.
pushed back the start time of the Open. I don't think it was very communicated I don't think it was communicated that well with the fans that he was gonna be in attendance and that there might be more security measures.
Mhm.
I mean, I knew about it just because, like, I was there a lot of times and I saw it on Twitter, but, like, I don't think the average fan, like, really knew he was gonna be there and then how much of a delay that would cause. but to delay the match by like 45 minutes was kind of insane.
Yeah. And I was having this conversation with my parents, and the one thing that I brought up was he always goes to UFC events because he's, friends with Dana White, and there's never any delays there. So like, why is it just because they're used to that and like they have like a system for those events, or is it because something's different about the US Open, or there was something different about that specific experience? You know what I mean?
I think it's definitely because he's friends with Dana and goes to them more often that they're definitely more well equipped for those
Sure.
security measures versus like the Open. It was only like a 1 day kind of thing. So I don't think their security was necessarily prepped for that kind of
Yeah.
exposure, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. But back to kind of the experience part of it. You worked at Shields
Mhm.
Sports. Is it Shields Sports?
Yeah.
Um, and they have a very experience-based shopping, or a
Mhm.
shopping experience, I should say, where there's what are those things called? It's not merry-go-round. It's
Oh, Ferris wheels?
Ferris wheel.
Uh-huh.
And there's putt putt and random bowling, ski bowling, stuff like that, where kids want to go and then parents are going to spend some money. I
Mhm.
think tennis needs to do more of that, and that's why the US Open has had so much success. Is they have the honeydew where they're generating $7.5 million in drink revenue, which is crazy. All profit pretty much.
Mhm.
um
And there's only 3 ingredients in those drinks.
yeah, I Lex and I made them this weekend. We made them without the melon balls, so I
Uh-huh.
mean,
I
I
mean,
was
I
like,
never ate the melon balls that came with mine, so
yeah, yeah, it's vodka, uh, raspberry, liqueur,
mhm.
ice, and then
There's something else that's like
lem fresh fresh lemonade.
yeah, yep, that's what it is.
Yeah, and yeah, pretty good. But yeah, do you have any other hot topics on your mind that you've been trying to get off your chest or something like that?
No, I'm just really excited to see where the rest of the season leads us, and then I'm excited to see who makes the little changes needed to progress them farther in the off season.
Mhm.
Oh, I do actually have a hot take.
All right.
I mean, it's not really related to the US Open, but it is about tennis. I think the Laver Cup needs to go away. I think it's did its purpose for the 3 or 4 years where Fed, Nadal, and Novak all played, but now there's no really point for it.
I agree.
Like it did its time, it served its purpose, and also the Davis Cup being so spread out, like, I think there's some qualifiers early in the spring, and now they're having another qualifying set, and then it's like the Davis Cup finals at in November. I think it's too spread out, which is where I think the United Cup right before the Aussie Open does it way better is because it's all in Australia. You get it done before the Aussie Open, and you're like there practicing in that climate. I
Hmm.
think the Laver Cup should be gone. Sorry, Mr. Rod Laver, but I think it served its purpose. And then the Davis Cup needs to figure out a better format for itself because I think there is potential there for the teams or the countries to like represent themselves in a non-Olympic setting. But like, I mean, the U.S. lost today. I don't remember what country they were playing against, but they didn't make it to the next round. Why is
Yeah.
the U.S. not making it to the next round when they have players like Fritz, Tiafo, well, Shelton's injured right now, so that's kind of unfortunate. But like the US should be doing a lot better at the Davis Cup, but players don't really give a shit about it. And maybe that's why the season's too long or something.
Yeah. I agree. Like if you don't have a massive viewership or
Hmm.
interest in a specific event, get rid of it, find a new one. And I agree, like the Labor Cup has kind of ran its course, and
Hmm.
there's just so many other opportunities to have a crazy cool event.
Hmm.
And yeah, no, I agree. I One thing that I want the tennis world to do is have a waste management open where people are just getting like essentially shitty, on the on the tennis grounds. And I'm not necessarily a proponent for that, but I just want like more of a like an upbeat scene where people are yelling at the players, like almost like a soccer match where you know, like let's say you're a goalie at a football match or a soccer match, and the other opponents are just yelling at you the whole time. Like, I think that'd be electric. Or I guess that probably doesn't happen though, because they don't switch sides on soccer, do they?
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know. I'd have to ask my brother because he's goalie. I think they do switch sides in soccer.
So you're gonna have your opponent's fans right
Mhm.
behind you, just yelling at you all game long. Like, what? Why can't tennis have that? Just because it's like one on one? Like, there should be someone just you suck. Like, the whole match, and then I think that would be kind of a cool experience. Maybe you have like a band or something like that. Some of those European tournaments, the
Mhm.
indoor ones, they have like bands playing and stuff like that. It's a much more electric watch.
I
Uh,
think they definitely need to do that after the US Open and kind of in that like off season time period. I think that would generate more interest in the sport for
yeah.
sure.
But yep, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for coming on,
Yeah.
Lizzie.
Thank you.
Yeah, adios.